Hello and welcome to Vow Voices of Wisdom, the show that might not be for everybody, but everybody needs to watch this show. This is part 2 of Take Back Your Life with Kyle Brunskill. Hi, Kyle.
Hi.
We're going to just keep it flowing.
Okay.
And what we're going to talk about now is the difference between religion versus relationship. And just give us a couple of definitions about, because I don't know if really understand the true definition of religion. So just give us a few definitions of religion.
Well, from an etymology perspective versus just what you could get out of a Webster's dictionary, the origin of the word itself, it's not an original language, which is Hebrew. It's not that. It's from the Greek. And when you look it up in the Greek, you get, you'll be surprised at what you find. Numbers in the Strong's Concordance like 1169, 1142, or 1174. What happens is you find out that religion is based more in superstition. Like, I have to do this for this to be a certain way. And it becomes repetitive and redundant. Like, people, like the horoscope. Like, I have to read the horoscope before I leave the house, or my day is just not going to work out fine, you know.
And I know, not to cut you off, I know this is going to be a little hard for some folks.
Oh, yeah, of
because
course.
I know folks read their horoscope religiously.
That's the point. We use that word when
Religiously.
you do something all the time.
And the other thing I wanted to make sure that everybody understands, just in case you don't get lazy and you really want to look this up, it's the Strong's Concordance.
Yes, Strong's.
And you can actually get that
You
online.
can go
Probably
online,
go online and look at
and
that.
use it on. You don't have to buy the book. You can go online and
Right.
research these words. Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to go. Now we can flow back. I'm sorry.
But it's just funny because words. I look at words, and horoscope is really two words. It's horror and scope.
Scope
So,
or horror.
right, you got you got to focus on your horror. So people are really terrified based on what the horoscope says. It can create some fear, or it
Exactly.
can create a good feeling as well.
Right.
But you can't live your life based on feelings. There has to be a level of discipline. And so religion, you get down to superstitions, you get down to redundancy. You have to look the word up to get a better understanding because it's in depth. And religion is completely separate from relationship. Don't get the two confused at all.
But we think it's the same.
Because as we said last time, people are lazy. When you're lazy, religion is like chicken noodle soup. It's just going to make you feel good, you know, when you're down. And we become almost addicted to that feeling, the utopia, that high feeling. You know, we always, you know, people will condemn people that get high in the street or use drugs because they're addicted. But many of us are religiously addicted.
Like Sunday morning.
Well, yeah, you know, we got.
Did I say that?
You did say
Did
it.
I say that?
You did say that.
Oops.
But it, you know, a Sunday morning experience, a lot of times, and this is not everywhere, but there's a lot of times where it comes down to how good did I come out feeling? Where in a relationship, anybody that's been in a relationship, you understand that it's not all feel good.
Exactly.
And it's about building together and understanding versus a good feeling.
And that takes time.
It does.
Takes
And
time.
discipline and commitment. Yes.
On both ends. You
Absolutely.
know, on both ends. And when, you know, as traditional ties into that, how does tradition and religion tie in to that? We already explained last show. Just come back again and talk to us again about tradition and how that ties in with religion.
Well, both of them are easy to give to a person who does not go out for themselves to get truth. So traditionally, you can do something all the time and not even care where it came from. It's just what we do. It's how we do it. And that becomes the backdrop for a lot of our religions. So as we religiously do things, we don't look at the value of them when it comes to what the real belief is. So if you're a Christian, your real belief is not in church, it's in the scriptures. So everything in your church should line up to what's in the word. The Father says, I place the word above my own name. So the word is extremely important. And although we may open it and read a verse and expound for 40 minutes on one verse, the way to really do it, as it says, is to teach precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, to get an understanding. And all by getting an understanding. But what religious does is it trains you to be more religious. So when you go there, the relationship is based on how religious you can appear. So when you go in, reading the scriptures for study is not high on the value system, but performing religious acts is high on the value system. So the relationship on the outside looks as if it's sound and phenomenal, but oftentimes it can create, dare I say, schizophrenic personality where you put on religion and then you have to take it off to be who you really are because there's been no ultimate internal change.
I'm trying to decide, I'm sitting here trying to decide how deep I'm going to get. And I think I'm going to go there. Inside the church, once they're inside the church and they're dealing with the different religions and different traditions, then there comes to be some sort of hierarchy. I'm not probably pronouncing the word correctly, but let's talk about a little bit about that, how, things are set up sometime. Everybody's not equal. Sometimes it's a tradition where certain people are over other people. How does that work, and how does that affect people in the church?
Well, every church system, every mosque, every Buddhist temple, everybody functions differently. And we're not here to tell you how to function.
Right.
But what happens is oftentimes it is very difficult to remain humble. Very difficult. And I feel for people put in those positions.
Right.
And it really does stem back to people being lazy and not wanting to go for yourself. So you become dependent on a person. And we as congregations in whatever situation, we can put leadership in a very bad situation because we become so dependent on our leader instead of being dependent on the Father who gave us a leader. And when that happens, it's difficult for a leader to not fall on some level in their relationship with the Father. Even Moses struggled with it. Those people were dependent on Moses. He left, they created a golden calf. Towards the end, Moses got so frustrated, he didn't even listen to the Father. When he was supposed to speak to the rock, he hit the rock.
Right.
He asked the people, do I need to fetch water for you again, you rebels? His whole personality in dealing with the people changed, and it caused him not to listen to the Father. So I don't know how it can make certain people feel, because some people desire to have someone tell them what to do and how to function.
Right.
And there are some people that want to be able to do that. But ultimately, in your relationship with the Father, he has to be able to get to you. The veil was torn so you can get to him, but he has to be able to get to you as well.
And that's where we have great leaders. I want to make sure I say
Absolutely.
that. We have great leaders. And I've seen, in my lifetime, I've seen great leaders in a position. And unfortunately, because the congregation or because the followers are lazy, they begin to put this person up in this idolatry position because they don't want to pray. They don't want to read the word themselves. They don't want to get the knowledge and become who the word is themselves. So then they begin to put this person up in this position. And like you said, that person is, they're in this position and it's difficult for them because they're to some of the congregation, they're God.
If people, and I've been in a lot of different settings, and people love their leader. And I would say if you really love your leader, don't put him in a position where he could fall. If we're diligent as laymen, as we're diligent, then it's not so much on him because the enemy will attack leadership all the more. If he can knock the leader and everybody scatter, because people aren't stable in themselves, then that's what he would do. So we actually open leadership up to more attacks because of our lack of diligence.
Absolutely.
And it really does come down to perception. How do you view it? Because
Right.
perception is reality for people. I use the example, and I'll use his name because it's an old story and it's a long time. Jimmy Swaggart was on TV. He was international preacher, and everybody loved him. He got caught in a compromising position. And the next Sunday, pretty much everybody left his church. But that compromising position he was in, that wasn't the first time he was in it. So how was it the Sunday before he was still able to lay hands and everybody was excited about him? The Sunday before, he could have been in the same compromising position, but because you didn't know, it was okay. But now that you know, we want nothing to do with him. So the perception of who he is almost controlled what the people believed in him.
Wow. And that's so powerful. You know, we've seen this happen where a whole congregation is destroyed. And to me, that's so messed up because they had no foundation then. Their foundation was this person who they put up on a pedestal. And the thing that's also challenging is they're human.
Right.
They're not
No.
God.
No.
And that's another thing that happens so many times. We've seen leaders fall and the whole and that's just usually the plan of the enemy. That's just exactly how, you know, it's supposed to happen. Jack him up and everybody else goes down. And they be like saying, yeah, got him. You know, all in one fall, all in one fall. So how is it that, you know, a leader can stop a congregation from putting him in that place? How can that happen?
It's difficult. It's extremely difficult because any good leader cares for the people. And when people come to you, you want to help them. You want to solve the issue. Many people will have a problem, and the first thing they say is, I got to go tell my leader, whether it's a pastor or imam, I got to tell them. Not I got to pray, not I got to fast, I got to consecrate, I got to get before the Father. I got to go tell him or her what happened. And that's difficult. Leadership has to really, really get into what the scriptures and the truth is. And you have to do it at the extent where you may lose some of your clout.
Your money? I mean, did you say?
I didn't say money,
sorry,
but
I'm
you
sorry.
did.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but you can because we love superstars. We love the heroes. And for a leader to take himself and say, listen, I'm not a superstar, I'm not a hero, I'm just a servant. In the scriptures, the Messiah was washing the disciples' feet. And so why are you washing the disciples' feet? He said, because I came to serve, not to be served.
Right.
But yet when you look at these establishments, religious establishment, it seems as if the leadership is being served by the people, catered to by the people, where the Messiah was the opposite. He said, I came to serve. And what happens is the enemy, he just wants to twist and flip everything. He'll look at the truth, and then he'll invert it and then give it to us. So instead of leadership serving the people, people now serve leadership. And the Messiah never wanted that. When he healed somebody, he'd be like, listen, don't go tell anybody because I don't need the attention. You know, go and, you know, do what you're supposed to do.
And, you know, I'm trying not to go there. I'm really trying. I'm trying. But it appears, too, that entertainment more so has entered into, I'm dealing with maybe our local church, you know, I have to go there, but I'm sure it might be other places too. But it seems like entertainment now, this whole hero thing has kind of entered into the church. And how is that affecting, how is that helping an individual and empowering them, or is it not?
Well, entertainment is of very little benefit because as the people receive, they can only give back what they get. So if it's all about entertainment, then the people are receiving entertainment. So they sincerely don't understand it, but they're giving back entertainment. But they are naive to what's really going on. They trusting and believing in what's given to them. But if it's a seed, it's only going to produce a fruit after its own kind. But it's difficult because this society is so into entertainment and the hype and the the show that a lot of our religious establishments have conformed to that to some level. And once that ball or that train gets moving, it's a difficult train to stop. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot to turn it around. It takes a great sacrifice, and Most people are not willing because seemingly it works. And this is not to bash anybody's establishment or to down talk
Right,
it, but the
right,
truth is
right.
the truth. Now, like we said earlier, the greatest struggle is the truth versus what you already believe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the most sincere thing for me is that after you leave that establishment on a Sunday or Tuesday, whatever day you go, or Saturday, are you empowered for life for the rest of the week? That's always been my thing, you know. You have to be empowered not to rely on, because that leader might not be there at 12:30 at night
Right.
when you really hurting, or your child is not there, or you're sick or whatever. So that's where, you know, that empowerment of being directed to the word is so important. And that's where my struggle is. That's been my struggle of how do we, as leaders, make that happen. You know, and I think it is directing them back to the word. I mean, even Bible study. I used to go to this wonderful Bible study that I do miss, and I need to get back to there. And that was mainly the basis of the relationship. What is your relationship with God? You know, and how important the word is. And I mean, really digging into Bible study itself instead of the entertainment part of it. And that's meat.
Right.
That's the meat of it.
Right.
That's what we should eat to live.
Yeah, it's like a child, you know, who just wants to eat junk food. You know what? It'll satisfy you. It'll give you some energy. You know, it tastes great, but long term, it could cause problems. And the problem, the issue is that this thing is great, feels great, looks good, tastes great. It moves. You know, people are coming, but in the long term, we lose people. I mean, most of the believers that go to Hollywood don't believe anymore because the foundation isn't solid. And trust me, I'm sure the candy and junk food in Hollywood is a lot more tasty.
I'm sure.
and then what we have been eating. So it's difficult, but it takes a turn. It takes someone to make a stand and to turn.
I'm going to throw out a term to you, and I'm going to ask you to see if you can tell me what this might mean. We've heard of the Emancipation Proclamation. We know what that is. So what do you think is the spiritual Emancipation Proclamation? What would you think that might be?
Well, spiritually, you would have to literally set yourself free. It says in the scriptures in the book of John, know the truth, and the truth will make you free. I know some translations say set, but you'd rather be made free than just released. We're in prison all the time. We see them set free without being made free, and they come right back.
Exactly.
But when you're made free based on the truth is when you research the word truth, it's more than just, you know, what we think is correct. When you study the word in its origin, it deals with healing. It deals with uplifting, building up, stability. A lot of the things that we miss in our lives, a lot of things that we crave for in our lives, is there if we go after the truth. He is truth. If we get that more than anything else, we will be set free. So even if you are in that setting, as we talked about taking your life back, that setting isn't molding and shaping you and controlling you. You're free there. You can be there and still be free. I tell them all the time, you can be in prison and be free. A lot freer than people that are not in prison. You know, so regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances, Paul and Silas was in prison and yet still free. We can be free. We can be emancipated from anything as long as we're going after what the truth is. And even with ourselves, we can be religiously slaves to ourselves, but we can be emancipated from that spiritually if we get to the truth of us. Before we worry about any church, any mosque, any Buddhist temple, any of that stuff, any cathedral or whatever, if we get to the truth of us, those things can't control us on no level unless what's given is truth. If what's given is truth, then it will coincide. It will confirm what's going on in us, in the reality and truth that we have based on the scriptures.
And whether people, you know, some people might believe this, some people might not believe this, is that we were created by God. And so with that, we have the ability to be free. But life and circumstance and tradition, religion, whatever, has bound us. And that freedom that we should have is no longer there. So I'm so trying not to do this. But I have seen people in church enslaved. Enslaved in being, got to be there, to be the usher, to be the, whatever. And, it's challenging because they really want to, I think the sincerity of it is they really want to do the right thing. They really want to be a servant to God. But somehow or other it gets twisted. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but it gets twisted to the point where it's almost like an enslavement.
Well, it's any institution can do that.
That's true.
You know,
Even
we
a
will,
job.
exactly. We will work, and I work a lot, and I try to balance it out. But it comes down to your value system, which is also rooted in what your worship is. Beyond the singing and the lifting of hands and whatever we call ourselves doing, worship is really what you put the highest value on.
Right.
So if your value system, if you move something from the ones column to the hundreds column, it just created more value. And whatever the highest value is, you have to conform as a person to what's highest in your system. So if church is highest in your system, then you have to be a product of that because it's the highest value. If your job is the highest in your value system, then you're going to turn into a person that reflects that. If the Father is highest in your value system, you're going to turn into a person that reflects that. So whatever your value system is, wherever you put it in your value system, simply dictates the type of person you're going to be.
Wow.
So if family's number one, that dictates the type of person you're going to be. So I would not point fingers at any particular entity,
Right.
but we as people, as an individual, have to check our value system. What is most valuable, most important? I put the Father first. I put family. Then things fall into place after that. That's just order. So you can be enslaved to church, to job, to anything, to another person, depending on where you put them in your value system.
Right. That's important. That's important. And I'm glad you broke that down because, like you said, it could be anything. We can be enslaved by anything.
Absolutely.
So even a spiritual emancipation proclamation, getting back to that, that has to do with our relationship. So just give us a little bit about the importance of a relationship, a spiritual relationship with God, and how that can happen. Say, for instance, in prayer, the difference between a quick prayer and a communication prayer. What is that difference?
Well, there's a lot of different levels when it comes to prayer and relationship, obviously. But any relationship, we all know that there has to be communication, and trust. As much as we are sometimes upset with the Father about, you wanted him to do, you think he should have did something that he didn't do, or whatever the case may be, but can he trust you? We always say, I don't know if God is willing. Well, I guess he's up there saying, well, are you willing? Because I'm ready to do it, but are you willing to do what it takes for it to happen? And a lot of times in prayer, we'll get down and we think that, and it says in scriptures, don't think that you'll be heard for your many words, like the heathen. He said, but, he knows what you have need of before you ask. So if your whole prayer life is articulating, because we can be very deep in articulating what's wrong.
Thou.
Yes, and we expanse everything that's wrong as if he doesn't already know. I would think that that's kind of insulting. But he's loving and he's caring and he hears us out.
Yes, and he's gracious.
Versus saying, what is it that you need me to do? And then me listening to that. I often give the example in prayer of Adam, and people can misinterpret it sometimes. Well, you didn't necessarily hear of Adam in the book of Genesis getting down and praying because the Father walked in the cool day. They had communication. But what Adam did do was Adam did everything the Father told him to do. It could not rain in the earth because there was no man to till the ground. So he created the man to do what? To do what he needed the man to do so that he could do more in the earth. So there's more that the Father wants to do in our lives, but until he gets a man or a woman in place to till the ground, and till deals with worship, to till the ground, he can't release what he has for us. So Adam did that. Then Adam named all the animals. Adam did everything that he was told to do. And then what happened? Adam got something that he didn't even know he needed. Yes, the Father said, it's not good for man. It's not
Oh,
good
yeah.
for my boy to be alone down there.
Absolutely.
Now, Adam had no concept of being alone.
He sure did.
This is just what he knew. So before he had a need, the Father already supplied it before Adam knew what he needed. So if Adam would have gotten prayer and started talking about what he needed, the Father wouldn't have been able to do what he wanted to do for Adam. But because Adam was just obedient, he was obedient, then the Father was able to give Adam things that Adam didn't even know that he needed. But we are so intelligent, we think we know what we need. So this is what you need to do in my life because this is what I need. But ultimately, he knows more of what you need. So instead of spending your prayer life just talking and not listening, ask him, what is it that I could do for you? And then listen to see what he says.
Wow. You know, we got like a minute left. So basically, this is going to really mess people's heads up really bad as we get ready to go off this show. So basically, God has given us some authority.
Absolutely.
So it's not just everything. So when we see things happen, we always blame God, blame God, blame God. But God has given us authority.
Absolutely. He said, be fruitful, multiply. Replenish the earth. You dominate. This is your domain, your dominion. Have dominion, rule. So ultimately, we have to, for him to function in this earth the way he wants it. He wanted it to rain, read it, but he could not cause it to rain because there was no man to till the ground. So there's some things he wants to do on this earth. Oh, God, why aren't you doing it? Well, why aren't you tilling the ground? Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to do? Because you have authority. Our authority is to open up the gate for him to come in so that he can do what he wants to do on the earth. But oftentimes we open up the gate to negativity by what we say and what we do to let other things come in to govern our circumstances.
So we have the power to take back our life.
Absolutely.
This has been great.
It has.
Wow. This has been Vow Voices of Wisdom. I hope you got something out of this. You can go to YouTube, the Vow Voices of Wisdom, and watch this show. And I guess you need to kind of watch this over and over again to get a lot out of it. This has been Vow Voices of Wisdom. Have a wonderful day. And Kyle, thank you.
Thank you.